I just go to Max. First take something.
We can't push guys around, we can't talk as well, so what you gonna do about it? Now we're coming to your home to win this game again. They send you on vacation.
I don't know if you ever heard about Clint Capella's comments.
I never talked like that in my life. Winning and I'm not thinking about that. No, bro.
So the chippiness continues.
We need more rivalries like this.
Trae Young from way downtown, largest lead of the night.
Right here, we finished.
The Knicks' hopes fading away here in the fourth quarter. Fires.
You are in the garden. You might as well take a bow.
I know where we are, and I know what they do when the show is over.
Good morning. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into First Take on this Friday.
Molly, look at Stephen A's face. See that? With the mouth all to the side.
Salty.
That's every single end of the season in my whole lifetime. Every Knicks fan, at the end of the season, I used to look like that.
Good morning,
All right, let's go. Stephen A's at a loss for words, so let's do it. Atlanta, stand up. Stephen A, Hawks don't soar with pigeons. That's what y'all got out here in New York, right? The Trae Young Show took its final bow in New York City last night. A 14-point win to send the Knicks on an early summer break, 4-1. His name is Trae, so fitting.
It was going to be sweet either way. It was going to be sweet winning the series either way, whether we won it tonight or whether we went back home and finished it. So, I mean, I was going to be feeling good after we won the series regardless, but I mean, winning here with all the fans still chanting the same stuff and really doing the same stuff, I mean, it feels good too. I mean, the bow is something I did it in high school after I hit a game winner, and leading up to this game, I know where we are. I know it's a bunch of shows around this city, and I know what they do when the show is over. So that's pretty much what it was.
Do you feel like, you've been a part of this, the Knicks have now arrived? I know it's not the ending you wanted.
Yeah, I think we're bringing a brand of basketball back that the city can be proud of. I mean, that's really what I mean by that. And we have something to build on for the future.
A brand of basketball to be proud of. Stephen A, was the Knicks season a success?
Well, on a morning like today where I'm just completely and utterly disgusted, New York stand down, as Kendrick Perkins so eloquently stated it, and Max did as well, I'm still not going to call the season a failure. I think it was a success. And the reason I think it was a success is because of how moribund and pathetic the franchise had been leading up to this season. The New York Knicks had been a laughingstock. It has been. Their owner was considered deplorable and petty and pathetic. The Garden was a place that was known for rats and roaches, not for basketball. There was a lot of things that were going on. But then Leon Rose arrived. And so did World Wide West, William Wesley. Scott Perry was retained. And Tom Thibodeau was brought in as the head coach of the New York Knicks. And from that point forward, a different culture was built. They're better for it. They obviously were competitive. They finished as a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. They won 41 of 71 games, or 72 games, I'm sorry. Went 41-31 this season. A guy named Julius Randle sparked the Garden because he became the NBA's most improved player, averaging 24 and 10 on the season. Had a pretty good year and deserves major props for it, and was a legitimate league MVP candidate because of how he had helped resurrect the New York Knicks in Madison Square Garden. We saw a resurgence of Derrick Rose and said that and learned that he still has a lot of life left in him, even though he was completely spent last night. And in that regard, and when you look at it from a cultural perspective, definitely it was a success. And I'll tell you something else that made the season successful. Last night, in this series. Because with this series, even though they lost it in 5 games, what you learned is Julius Randle is not a number 1 option. And I'm not going to crucify him on this particular day because he did have a good season. And I'm not going to malign him or anything like that. I'm just going to be humble and straightforward and correct in saying what I have to say. This is a guy that averaged 37 on 58% shooting and 50% from three-point range against the Atlanta Hawks. in 3 regular season meetings. And in this particular series here, this dude averaged 18 points, but he shot 30% from the field, 33% from three-point range, was going left every time, didn't even have a right hand, was very transparent and predictable, and I know they were throwing bodies at him. But the bottom line is what you learned was his limitations. Julius Randle is an elite number 3 option, a quality number 2 option, but damn sure ain't a number 1 option. And that much has been proven in this series alone. And R.J. Barrett, I know he's got a lot of promise, and I like him, but there's levels to this. Zion is on a level. Ja Morant is on a level. Number 1, number 2 picks a couple years ago. And then there is R.J. Barrett, who is a precipitous fall off from those 2 that I were mentioned. So when you recognize that reality, as far as I'm concerned, if I'm the New York Knicks, I kidnap R.J. Barrett and Julius Randle for the entire offseason. I tie up their left hand, I handcuff it to a bar, do something, and I make sure that they are not allowed to use their left hand. They're only allowed to use their right hand for the entire off season. That is what I would do. But the season was a success because they're relevant again. And that's where I'm at with it, Max.
Every single thing you said was on point just now. Every single thing you said. And what Julius Randle said especially, he's right. They've reinstilled pride in Knicks basketball, not New York basketball. The Nets got New York basketball. Don't worry about it, New York. You're fine. You know, the Nets are going to be playing for a while. Knicks are all done, just like you knew was going to happen. But Julius Randle's right about that. You're even right to point out when it mattered most, he got cut in half. Look at all the numbers you put up. They were all half when it mattered most in the playoffs, and he saw that defensive attention. Not a knock against Randle. As you said, elite number 3 option, solid number 2 option, and a number 1. All that stuff is right, and that's the problem, Stephen A. That's the problem. No, I'm not going to call that a success. You have to reset expectations. Well, if you said in the beginning of the season, no, we're not in the beginning of the season. We saw what the Knicks could do, what Tom Thibodeau could do, and the bottom line is they got gentlemen swept by a lower seed. They got 1 playoff win. And a lot of people thought they were going to win that series. I thought, that's a really good 7-game series. Go either way. I'll take, maybe the Knicks will do it. You certainly thought the Knicks would. A lot of people thought they're the higher seed, and they lost. And guess what now? Well, now we're playing with pride. Oh, really? That's a great moral victory that your team plays in a way that you can be proud of? That's a big thing for a New York franchise to want? For the home of the New York Yankees, the greatest franchise in the history of world sports? The New York football Giants, one of the most successful franchises in the history of the NFL. The Knicks, supposed to be the heritage franchise. They play with pride. They won a single playoff game. People are celebrating. Well, now they got a healthy culture. And now they can attract well, let's see what they actually have. What do the Knicks actually have? Might they get someone like Bradley Beal? I like Bradley Beal a lot. Stephen A., if Bradley Beal's your best player, which he would be by far on this Knicks team, you ain't winning no championship. You're not even going to get to a conference finals. Bradley Beal's awesome. But let's be real. Not a top 5 player, a top 8 player, something like that. No, and this is what the Knicks are hoping for now. Stephen A., when we were coming up, and you're a little older than me, so I wasn't alive for the Walt Frazier Knicks. I remember the Patrick Ewing Knicks. And you know what the frustration was there most seasons? We're on a second, especially when Ewing got old, we're on a second-round treadmill. We're not good enough to win the championship. We're not bad enough to get high draft picks. We're just going to be... The Knicks are hoping maybe to one day get back to a second-round treadmill, which they're not even on right now. That's the big prize. Maybe if we keep improving, not an MVP, but an all-star will come and sign, and we can maybe get knocked out in the second round from now on, and the city can be proud. I don't know what city you're talking about. I think the city should be proud of the Brooklyn Nets, who have a real good chance to win a championship this year.
Well, listen, here's the deal. The New York Knicks with Leon Rose, William Wesley, and Scott Perry and those boys didn't come here with any expectations to win the championship within the next 2 years. We all know that. We all know how pathetic this has been, and it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So the thing about it is, Max, is that neither one of us are wrong here, because I don't disagree with your points in terms of resetting and restarting. But that doesn't take away from the success that they've had this season when you consider what the expectations were coming into the season. You got a new regime and a new culture, and you've got to piggyback off of what has transpired over the previous 2 decades. So it was absolutely pathetic. And when you take that into consideration, the New York Knicks are actually ahead of schedule in terms of reestablishing a culture or reimaging a culture to give somebody some kind of attractive, or to present yourself as some kind of attractive commodity. I think to some degree they've done that. Now, the stars don't really want to come out, because I got news for you. I spoke to several players last night. I was texting a few of them, and they were talking about, are we supposed to come and want to play with Julius Randle? Because here's the thing about Julius Randle. You appreciate his workmanlike mentality. You appreciate the good season that he had. But you also understand he's got an ego with him. He views himself as a number one option, even though he's got no business feeling that way this particular morning. And what you have is a situation where people are wondering, is that a situation we really, really want to walk into? So all of those things are things that you got to take into consideration. But in the end, I think we have to applaud Leon Rose and Wes and Scott Perry and Tom Thibodeau for the job that they've done, how a culture has been reestablished. And you go from there. You're right. You do have to restart it. But now when you try to restart it, no one's looking at you and saying, please, we don't believe you. You're the New York Knicks. They're looking at you and saying, hey, you had a pretty good season. Let's see what you do next year and the year after.
And by Knicks standards, that's a victory. And that is pathetic. You talk about a marathon. Stephen A., a marathon lasts 26 miles. I'm in my 48th year. I'll be 48 in August. Marathon's been going on for 48 years, and there's no expectation in the next 2 or 3 years they're going to compete for a championship. That's over half a century as the heritage basketball.
They had the worst record over the previous 7 seasons, and they made it to the playoffs this year. I just want to say one thing, Stephen A., to Max really quickly. When you say New Yorkers should be proud of the Nets and not the Knicks, that's not entirely fair. The Nets took a bunch of superstars and pieced them together. Yes, there's 3. Let me finish. I didn't finish my thought. There's 3 superstars pieced together on the Nets. Any team can get 3 superstars together. Let me finish. And you're going to say, oh, the Knicks can't get 3 superstars. No one wants to be there. The Knicks are building something ground up with young talent. That's entirely different.
That's exactly what the Nets did, Molly. Nets did the exact same thing. They had Karis LeVert and these young players, established a healthy culture. It didn't take them 50 years. It took them 2 years. 2-3 years. They go to Brooklyn. A couple years later, they do exactly what you're saying the Knicks are doing now and actually signed KD and Kyrie and traded for James Harden. The Knicks are hoping one day maybe they could do half of what the Nets did.
I didn't realize KD went for Karis LeVert. Thank you for clearing that up. But we got to move on now. Let's go. Is on the brink of elimination, but keep in mind, LeBron has the most points per game when facing elimination, even more than MJ and Wilt. Game 6 in Staples. So Laker faithful will be in full effect. As for Anthony Davis, he's a question mark with the groin, and of course CP3 battling that shoulder. Stephen A., what version of LeBron do you need to see?
Oh, is this for me or Max, Molly? I'm sorry.
For you. It's for you.
I don't want to hear anything from LeBron James tonight in terms of being passive. I don't give a damn if he shoots 0 for 40. You got to go down swinging, because it's very possible that they may go down tonight. Phoenix is no joke, y'all. They ain't playing. And I knew that the Lakers were gonna get beat the other night. I didn't think they were gonna get annihilated by 30 in the first half, but I definitely knew they were gonna lose Game 5, because how that team feeds off of that crowd is something special. And then when you take into account how we saw them perform on the road, I got to give credit where credit is due. They got some young thoroughbreds that go after it, and they firmly believe they can beat these Lakers. Listen, they respect LeBron. They respect Anthony Davis. They understand how elite those dudes are when healthy. They ain't worried about nobody else on the Lakers. They don't feel anybody else on the Lakers can mess with them. And their whole thing is Anthony Davis is hobbled. Let's try and neutralize LeBron. LeBron got to go out there and be like a man possessed. Why is 40% of your shots from three-point range? Why? Why is that? Go in the paint. Go in the hole. You 6'9". You healthy. You 6'9". Not healthy completely, but healthy enough. You 6'9", 260. You're bigger and stronger than most. Obviously faster than most as well. You're the modern-day version of Superman. Go up in there. Take Jay Crowder or whomever else in the post, get to the free throw line, do what you got to do to be that man amongst boys, and handle your business. That's what LeBron should be doing, because let me tell you something. That's their only hope. KCP, he ain't 100%. In 15 minutes, he didn't give you anything. Dennis Schroeder should be ashamed of himself. Ashamed of himself. A donut, 0 points, and you play over 26 minutes? What the hell is wrong with you? Kyle Kuzma was the only dude that came off the bench. And by the way, Anthony Davis, this is a delicate situation, Max and Molly. And Max, you know me when I tell you what I'm hearing. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, everyone read between the lines.
This is one of those moments, okay? Anthony Davis, no one. We all love Anthony Davis, respect the unibrow, the hell he's one healthy, one of the greatest players in the world. Here's the deal. No one is questioning the legitimacy of Anthony Davis's injury. We all know he's hurt. We know that if he could play, he'll play. But tonight, with the season on the line, people are looking at him with a raised eyebrow. And here's why. No pun intended. Here's why. Because what are you doing with your body in the off season? What are you doing during the season to take care of yourself so you don't find yourself in these kind of situations? Because he's perpetually injured all the time. That's how people are looking at him. So tonight, everybody knows he's not going to be 100%. The question is, can you go? LeBron James is out there by himself. You going to go out there and help your brother? Because I'm telling you right now, nobody wants to hear, well, I need to be cleared by team doctors. Ain't nobody trying to hear that. I can tell you that. They ain't trying to hear it. They're looking at him like, you make that damn call. Caesar's on the line. But you going to go. And we ain't questioning his injury. We're questioning whether or not you can play through it to help your brother, because LeBron James got a battle of his life right here waiting for him tonight in Phoenix. They coming.
First of all, the reason LeBron's taking so many outside shots, Stephen A., as you know, is too much traffic in the paint. And that's because they have no respect for the Lakers shooters. And why should they? Lakers shooters have not been hitting shots. Dennis Schroeder, it was a no-show. First, Stephen A., as I talked about it yesterday, first Laker in history, first L.A. Laker since they moved to L.A., first Los Angeles Laker in history in the playoffs to attempt at least 9 shots, have 0 points. So why would the Suns respect the Lakers shooters? But here's the thing. LeBron's got to be great, obviously. If LeBron's not great, they can't win. I'm with you on AD. If AD can go at all, he's got to try. But here's the thing. Chris Paul is not Chris Paul right now. Now, the end of that game, his shoulder looked like it was hanging on by a thread. It looked like he was in excruciating pain, like he was not the same guy. And while it's not a lower extremity, so he can actually walk out onto the court, he can run around, I don't think we can expect him to be the Chris Paul who can help carry a team. So what does that mean? That means I'm looking at Devin Booker. And I said this going into the series. I thought there may come a time where LeBron, on a bad ankle and all, has to do something about Devin Booker defensively. And I think the time may have come. One thing I know for sure is obviously LeBron must be the best player on the floor. You can say, well, yeah, of course. That wasn't the case in game one. Booker came out, saw LeBron, AD, and Chris Paul. He was the best player on the floor. LeBron must be the best player in the game. And if he can be, Stephen A., once you start thinking, well, take the real AD off the Lakers. Okay, take the real Chris Paul off the Suns. Lakers can win this game.
Lakers could win this game. They better win this game. I assume there will be a game 7, and I'm not running from that because I think LeBron on his home court tonight is going to be a monster. He has to be. He has to show up. But I emphasize the fact that, again, while others got to show up, all eyes are on Anthony Davis right now. Listen, again, nobody's questioning that he's injured. Nobody, we wouldn't do that to that brother. You know, he's not that kind of man. If he can play, you know, he wants to be out there. He wants to play. But I'm just telling you, people are looking at him like, okay, what do you do to take care of yourself during the season? Do you stretch enough? What are you doing to take care of yourself during the offseason? Remember, he came on first take about a year ago. And what did he say? He said, listen, there were people that were questioning me, you know, and talking about I was a bit frail and what have you. So I was in that gym, got bigger, got stronger. I'm ready for the run. And then he backed it up and went in the NBA Finals and could have easily been the NBA Finals MVP with his numbers averaging 30 and doing what he did. But the flip side is now it's reverted back to form. And all year long, people haven't liked the body language of the Lakers. They felt that the Lakers were a bit too comfortable feeling themselves, rightfully so. They're the reigning defending champions. So the mentality was, we did it. We already accomplished that goal. We got the Lakers back to relevancy, blah, blah, blah. We ain't got nothing to worry about. We'll see y'all come playoff time. And all year long, people were lamenting the kind of attitude that they were walking around with. And so now that you see guys hurt, what's bringing in the question is, well, how are you living? You in La La. You in Southern California, chilling as the reigning defending NBA champions. You know what? Were you putting in that work to make sure you were ready to defend your crown? Or did you just take it for granted? Because that's what you're seeing when you see all of these health issues prop up with dudes. And that's what people are talking about. LeBron James, true to form, somehow, some way, no matter what, physically, always ready. Always ready. Because he in that gym, he putting in that work. Nobody's questioning that about him. They starting to question it about other people. And they looking at the Los Angeles Lakers with a raised eyebrow, no pun intended. And Cat's going to have to answer the call. I'm just telling you.
All right. To your point, AD has had 8 different injuries this season. But LeBron, everyone's saying he needs to have at least 30 points. He hasn't had a 30-point game since March 18th. We'll see if he gets the JOB done tonight, fellas.
He will tonight.
We'll keep it rolling.
You're a question mark as a coach in some people's eyes, including in Boston. But somehow, some way, you moving upstairs. You got players, NBA players are some of the most powerful people in this world. When have they spoken up for black coaches? When? When have they spoken up for black executives? Nobody's done anything. And then when we the media, we bring it up, and you got white folks out here gonna sit up there and look at Stephen A. and say, oh, here he is bringing up race. And none of the black players speak up and say, yo, he got a point. You know what? I'm gonna walk away. I'll be right back because I'm scared I'm gonna say something that might get me in trouble because I'm pissed. I'm pissed.
All right, that was yesterday's show. Stephen A., clearly you were bothered. We got that information, obviously, in real time on the air. It was breaking news. What's your reaction a day later now that you've been able to digest and talk to some people?
I feel exactly the same way I felt yesterday. I'm just a bit calmer about it. I will say that some media reports are inaccurate because I didn't call out Kyrie Irving, but I will tell you that when it comes to Kyrie Irving, he's one of the people that actually did bring up the plight of black coaches in the National Basketball Association in recent memory. So I applaud him for that. That's number one. Number two, let me articulate as best as I possibly can what I am trying to say. Brad Stevens coached the Boston Celtics for 8 years. I think he did a pretty damn good job. In 8 years, he's won more than 55% of his games, and he took them to 3 conference finals. I thought he did a pretty damn good job. But he was on the hot seat, according to reports even out of Boston this year. How you go from that to being president of basketball operations is a legitimate question. When I brought up Steve Nash and I brought up white privilege, the point that I was making was that I wasn't making the point, as I explained to Max yesterday, that they got the jobs because they're white. I'm saying those opportunities don't happen for black people. You can't be a black coach, figuratively speaking, on a hot seat, if not literally, and then all of a sudden you get an elevated position as running the damn organization, president of basketball operations. You can't be a guy who's black and has never coached on any level, and the first job you get is coaching KD, Kyrie, and a bona fide, legitimate championship favorite as your first job ever in coaching. Those kind of opportunities do not happen for us. And then when you get to the executive level, which is something that I brought up yesterday because Brad Stevens has been elevated to president of basketball operations. My apologies to Brad Stevens and his family. I don't want to cast any aspersions. I don't blame the man for taking the job. I called Steve Nash when I said what I said about white privilege to let him know I'm not talking about him. Because, by the way, there are a whole bunch of white people with resumes who getting screwed over, that they deserve an opportunity as well. I'm not talking about that. I'm simply talking about what doesn't happen for minorities in this country. Now, let me take it to another level. When we're talking about the executive, just GMs and people like that. Masai Ujiri is in Toronto, Canada. And we know that basically he's calling the shots for basketball operations. Troy Weaver's he's the GM in Detroit after serving under Sam Presti for years in Oklahoma City. He doesn't have final say. Scott Perry's in New York as the GM. He doesn't have final say. Elton Brand was in Philly doing a pretty decent job. Now, I understand he's no Daryl Morey, but you didn't let Elton Brand go. You brought in Daryl Morey to work over him after you brought in Doc Rivers. Elton Brand doesn't have final say. James Jones did hire Monty Williams, but from what I'm told, even though Sarver is the owner, Sarver actually negotiates with players sometimes on his own. So you got to take that into consideration. Mark Eversley is the GM in Chicago, but the president has final say over him. Brian Wright is the new GM in San Antonio. Congratulations. That's news to us because guess what? We all know R.C. Buford and Greg Popovich running the show there. He ain't got final say. All right? So I'm giving you examples basically in closing to say this. There are a lot of black folks, more so than in the past, that are getting positions, but not the responsibilities that come along with it, not the final say, not the power. So just like you had an issue with coaches in terms of being leaders of men, and somehow, some way, there's still a paucity of black coaches, whether it's in college football, NFL, or the NBA or whatever, because we're questioning whether or not they can be leaders of men. Now you got people who are supposedly leading organizations. And when they don't have the power that comes along with it, it's nothing but lip service. What's the criteria? Where is the criteria? When Steve Nash can get the job under the conditions he got him on, when Brad Stevens can become a president of basketball operations, what's the criteria? Because as black people, we need to know. Because if all you can do is sit around and decide, well, I like you. We have a nice conversations together. We drink together. We hang out together. We've cultivated a relationship with one another. And that's all I need. Black folks don't have a chance, which means it's all lip service. And that's all I have to say.
I hear what you're saying. I think it's an important point to make, especially about executive positions. I don't agree with you about Stevens or Daryl Morey, for example. Elton Brand wasn't doing a good enough job. By the way, he's a black guy. Colangelo didn't do a good enough job. He was a white guy. You needed to bring in a dude, black or white, who was much better than those guys, and they did. And if you keep Elton Brand on, great. He doesn't get bounced. He just, there's a guy over him who's better than him. But your point is well taken in that why does that always seem to be a white guy who gets brought in who's better than him? There are obviously qualified black candidates. I think what happened with the Celtics is they really like Brad Stevens' basketball acumen, but he'd lost the locker room. Stephen A., you and others have been talking about that for a while now. Time for a change. But they didn't want to lose his basketball brain from the organization, so they kicked him upstairs. I think that he's in a position to succeed. He has some runway here, which I don't know if that'll rankle you more or not, but the fact of the matter is if they blame him for chemistry issues, and the belief is there's more talent in that locker room than was shown on the court, and especially they went through COVID stuff and injuries and everything, they're very likely to do better next year. And some of that success will be credited to the new GM, who's Brad Stevens. And if they don't do better next year, he'll look better as a coach. Oh, look at that. Maybe it wasn't Brad Stevens. So the bottom line is he's in a pretty good position right now. I don't know that race has anything to do with it, although what can be said, just as a fact, is something like this, to my knowledge, in these particular circumstances, hasn't happened for a black coach. I brought up Isaiah Thomas yesterday, Stephen A. He was shuttled back. He was the GM and the coach, and sometimes both. He would sign him, make himself coach and GM. So Doc Rivers, who went from head coach of the Clippers and GM, got GM taken away, kept as a coach, lost his job, got a great, coaching role with a head coaching role with an awesome young team and, an excellent team as the 76ers. But you'd be right to point out Doc Rivers was a championship coach. You can come up with enough detail that says, yes, but this hasn't.
Before Molly chimes in.
This hasn't yet happened for black executives and coaches the way it has for white, and that is true.
I have one question for you, Max, before Molly chimes in here with her question mark. And I'm asking you this question as the white guy on the show.
Sure.
Can you point to me one in the history of sports where a white coach or executive was picked and anybody that you know of admitted, hey, we were comfortable with the white guy?
No, that they don't admit that out loud.
Thank you.
But that's an issue to me, ultimately, of ownership. When you have virtually no diversity in ownership, I think it is likely that they will hire people that remind them in certain ways of themselves, or that
my only point is they're not going to admit
with
the things that you're saying. My only point is that they're not going to admit it.
Yeah.
So pointing out the examples, I get it, but they're not going to admit what's going on.
And Stephen A., you know what's sad? I think sometimes sometimes people aren't even aware of it. Exactly.
Sometimes they're not aware. Sometimes.
Yep. Both scenarios. Absolutely. Stephen A., I want to get your thoughts on this. A couple more things, guys. I want to go with this conversation. But here first, is there more pressure on Stevens now that he's in the front office compared to as a head coach?
I think so. Because when you consider how his tenure as coach ended, they were a 500 team. They got bounced out in the first round. He seemed to have lost the locker room, etc. Well, now you're going to be in an executive position. And I'll tell you where the pressure should lie. It shouldn't just lie in the overall outcome of what he's doing in Boston. It should lie in the level of diversity that he brings to the Boston Celtics franchise. I would remind everybody, all the negativity that people want to throw at the city of Boston and the Boston Celtics organization, do you realize that when you talk about a player coach, they had Bill Russell. Bill Russell, as a coach, inherited a championship caliber team. So did K.C. Jones with Larry Bird and the crew. So the kind of things that we lament about everybody else in the NBA, Boston, the city of Boston, the Boston Celtics, and Bill Russell and K.C. Jones actually did what the Brooklyn Nets did with Steve Nash to some degree. They gave a black man a championship caliber franchise to coach immediately. That does not happen for black folks, but the Boston Celtics did it. That was decades ago. The modern day era, you got these young brothers, you got these young white brothers from involved with these analytics. How diverse are their staff? What minorities are they bringing in? Who are they elevating and helping to promote? And my biggest point that I was pointing out yesterday, guys, is I wasn't even getting on the owners or the teams. I was really pointing the finger at the NBA players who sit idly by and say nothing. We want to speak about police brutality, fine. We want to speak about social justice, racial inequality, great. We want to speak about economic disparities and all of those things, fine. But the reason why some people, even though they may not acknowledge it enough, they were wrong to do it, because don't you dare tell us to shut up and dribble. Don't you ever tell an athlete that. But maybe the reason that some people might have said it is because you ain't speaking about issues in your own backyard. This, they're experts on. They know what the hell's going on in the coaching ranks. They know what the hell is going on with minorities in the front offices. And you say nothing? Nothing? Kyrie spoke up. A couple other players spoke up last year, but you barely hear a peep from over 90% of the NBA body as it pertains to issues involving black men in leadership positions, whether they be coaches or executives. I was calling out the players. They should be ashamed of themselves. Ashamed. No heart.
All right.
I have no comment. I think Stephen A. expressed himself. Those are obviously strong feelings, and players have taken leadership roles in a lot of issues, and here is another issue that players can step up and take a leadership role in. It's fair. It's
your
a
backyard.
fair comment.
Absolutely.
It's their house. It's their house.
And we'll obviously continue this conversation and we'll look at who could be potential. Coach K has had a legendary coaching career, 46 years behind the bench overall, notably at Duke since 1980. His 1,170 wins are the most of any men's or women's coach in the history of the sport. Now, while he won a ton, Coach K was arguably at his best come March. His 35 tournament appearances and 12 Final Four runs are tied for the most of any coach all time. He also won 5 titles, second only to the legendary John Wooden. And his impact wasn't just felt on the collegiate level. He led Team USA to 3 gold medals in the Olympic Games and produced 41 first-round draft picks. 41, the most of any coach in the history of the draft. Joining us now is someone who's no stranger to Coach K's greatness, won a championship with him in 2001. My guy, Jay Will.
What up,
I like
Molly?
the jacket.
Got the jacket, had the rep today.
I like it.
Big day.
I'm into it. Want to start with you here. Obviously, his legacy is overwhelming, but how would you articulate how important he is to college basketball?
That's hard to put into words. I think he's the greatest achiever that has seen college basketball other than John Wooden. And the thing about him that's so different is that he's a master communicator, right? He gets the first conversation I ever had with Kobe Bryant was about Coach K. One of the first conversations I ever had with LeBron James was about Coach K. He's that glue that keeps all the greats together because he gets you to buy into something bigger than yourself. Like, that is his theme. It's all about culture. X's and O's.
How does he do that, Jay?
Well, he does that. He breaks down your egos, Matt. So this is what happens, and this is why I think the frustration is kind of panned into, not frustration, but maybe just like, hey, I think that I feel like I've accomplished enough and I'm ready to pass the reins on to a guy like John Shire. When you come into that school, if you're a McDonald's All-American like I was, I came in with 4 McDonald's All-Americans. What he does over that first year is he says, you are no different than anybody else on this team. You're going to be held to the same standards. And yeah, you may have dropped 30, 40 points in high school, but you have to learn how to work here differently. So when he breaks down your ego, where he challenges you in front of your teammates, he calls you out for things that typically doesn't ever happen in high school. He gets you to believe that you can't do things by yourself. You might be individually great at your skill set, but you need the collective skill set in order to achieve the collective goal. When you can do that over a year, like 2 years maybe, right? But what happens now is when you have one and dones, when you have kids that have all these alternative other positions to go to achieve their goal, you have to expedite that process. It's hard to get you to buy into something bigger than yourself when you're only here for 4.5 months. Look at the kid Johnson that was on the team that literally left the team this year and was like, no, I'm good. I need to do what's best for me. That's never happened in the history of the program before. And I think the more things like that happened with the transfer pool, with companies like Overtime Elite, oh, you want to be paid in high school? Be paid. Okay, great. You want to go to the G League? Be paid millions of dollars. You want to go overseas? Be what LaMelo Ball or what RJ Hampton have done. It makes it way much more a different environment that it's not what he signed up for originally. Now, he can adapt. I'm sure he could. But I think that for Coach K, doing it his way has always been the way he's been able to achieve the ultimate level of success.
I was getting ready to ask you that, Jay, and I think you answered the question, but just to be specific, I was going to ask you, knowing him the way that you do, having played for him, won a national title for him, was player of the year for him, etc., I wanted to know, was there a moment where you looked at him and you saw this coming, or did you find this as a total shock to you once the news came down yesterday?
I would probably say, it was probably when dealing with, and it was a great team, and he loved coaching them, but it was interesting, the Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish year, right? Dealing with the amount of pressure that came on that, getting those guys to build into something, I think was just challenging. You had a lot of moving pieces. You had Zion, who was a lightning rod. You had Cam Reddish, who was extremely talented. RJ Barrett, who's first-class individual. But I think Coach K has always been brilliant at managing egos. But like I said, you have to be there long enough for him to actually understand who you are, for you to reveal who you are. So when people know that, hey, this is a pit stop for me to achieve my ultimate dream, it makes it harder for individuals to buy into the collective. And that's where his brilliance has always been next level. Get you to focus your attention and effort on what the team is trying to achieve, not what you're trying to achieve individually.
Not to mention, he's 74 years old. There are investigations into college basketball. Who needs that mess? And by the way, let's not forget, there's a season coming up. He's not done yet. What are the odds that he can win a championship in his final season as coach, Jay?
Pretty high. Pretty high. It's pretty insane with this team, this collection of talent that he has. This may be, over the last couple of years, his best opportunity to win a championship. We could be talking about this in the next 6-7 months. Coach K could be retiring, winning his 6th championship. His 6th championship, because they have championship talent on this roster.
Wow.
Absolutely. Jace, thanks for sticking around here with us. Appreciate you. I know you already did 4 hours of radio TV.
All good, all good.
Well, you have those night shifts going on, too. You're used to this. This is nothing. All right, thank you kindly. The Duke legend, Coach K, announced...
Nothing ever goes right for us.
Change must come to every man.
A new day in New York.
This isn't happening in Madison Square Garden. Julius Randle, he is a star now.
Knicks fans, they want wins. That's what we're trying to bring.
At their second longest win streak in the last 25 seasons.
Just getting a little bit emotional right now.
The Knicks have clinched a playoff spot for the first time since 2013.
New York, we here.
How can I tell my heart it's over?
Ah, that damn Trey Young.
It's all over. 'Cause
It's orange and blue skies, baby. It's just one game.
What a flurry by the Knicks.
Crowd loving every bit of this.
We here, New York Knicks, handling their business.
The Trae Young Show continues.
'Cause it's true.
Stop laughing at me.
It's over.
And here comes the standing ovation in appreciation of the Knicks season.
I'm very, very proud of the Knicks this year. Them damn Knicks.
First of all, whoever put that montage together on our team, bravo. Second of all, the slow jams. Oh, it was Cassandra Khan. Shout out to her. She did an exceptional job, the music, etc.
Stephen A is legit, depressed today. Look at him. All day like this. Look at this guy. Legit depressed. This happens when you have certain expectations that are unrealistic, I think, Molly.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be okay. You know why? Because we got Kendrick Perkins here. And Kendrick, if I remember correctly, you were on this show, and I think you picked the Hawks to win. That would make sense because you're right 85% of the time, 100% of the time.
84. We got the one, yeah.
Yeah. Perk, the floor is yours, sir. I really want to hear from you right now.
Well, first of all, Stephen A., don't be sitting there with that sad puppy dog look on your face, looking like Raleigh from Puppy Dog Pals. Because, look, for the last 2 weeks, all I've been hearing about is New York stand up. It's orange and blue skies, but guess what? It's cloudy with a few icicles out there in New York right now because Ice Trey showed up in New York City in his construction outfit, okay? Steel-toe boots and hard hat, and it was muddy. And he walked right into your house, the Madison Square Garden, where they had a sign that says, leave your shoes at the front door. But he walked right on in, right up to Dolan's suite, and kicked his shoes off like it was his house, kicking rocks and mud everywhere, and laid on Dolan's couch in his suite, twinkling his toes like this here, looking real comfortable. And by the way, can anybody find Spike Lee and check on him, please? I know he was tossing and turning all night.
He's headed toward Barclays. He's heading toward Barclays.
He probably woke up this morning and walked down into his kitchen, and he saw Clint Capella in there scrambling eggs and drinking Kool-Aid like milk off of baby. Boy, you want some breakfast, Spike Lee? I mean, carry on, stand down. New York, stand down. New York, stand down. Carry the hell on.
I'm on the plane yesterday because obviously when it comes to the NBA, there's never a bigger story than LeBron James, or rarely is there a bigger story than LeBron James, and him being on the brink of elimination. I couldn't be at Madison Square Garden last night. I was in the air.
Convenient.
The plane that I was on, it had a television, had live television, so I watched the game from start to finish. But I thought that, when you have your cell phone, it can't operate in the air. You can't really hear anything. I am 30,000 feet in the air. And there's a text message that pops up on my phone. And it's a voice message via text. And somehow, some way, 30,000 feet in the air, that damn Kendrick Perkins is on my phone. That damn Kendrick Perkins sent me a text while I'm in the air. You know what I'm saying? New York, stand down. Carry on. Then with that damn old man drawl laugh. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I had to listen to while I was in the air. Now, I thought this was my brother. I thought that this man would show and showcase some level of compassion. It wasn't like the Knicks were going against the Boston Celtics or the Oklahoma City Thunder or somebody like that. They were going up against a team Kendrick Perkins ain't played for, but all of a sudden, he became a resident ATL dude, Nevertheless, it's a very devastating thing for me to endure right now. I imagine not much compared to Spike. And what makes it bad about my brother Spike, see, last week, I was at Spike's office. We were chilling. You know what I'm saying? Clanking, drinking some wine, chilling out. We were at the office, and it was right down the block from the Barclays Center. And we were like, damn the Barclays Center. We'll deal with that if the Knicks lose. But right now, it's about the Knicks, okay? Right now, it's about the Knicks. And we were in his office in Brooklyn, chilling. You understand what I'm saying? Chilling and having a good old time. And then this happened. This hurts. Y'all got me today. It's all right. It's okay. I can't say anything. Kendrick, you got me. Enjoy this moment, KP, because you had two bad moments, but I'm going to give you this one. You enjoy the moment because Trey is that dude. Trey is something special. He really is.
One thing I'll say is, Perk, the Knicks, whatever. I'm laughing today. But New York, stand down. One thing Molly brought up earlier, talking about how this season is a success for the Knicks. Stephen A. brought it up. You want to establish a healthy culture on your basketball team with some hardworking young players that you can show the rest of the NBA this is a healthy place to come and play. And now you're selling New York City to them. So that has to be considered a success. And you can't say New York stand down or sit down. No, you say New York stand up. It has to be considered a success because it's already worked in Brooklyn. That's exactly what the Nets did. And Spike's heading toward Barclays. That's where you'll find Stephen A. That's where you'll find the rest of the city. And ultimately, by the end of these playoffs, the entire basketball world in New York for New York's real team, the Brooklyn Nets. Is Brooklyn in the house without a doubt?
All we wanted was one first-round series win. But I want to say this on a serious note, in light of what we were talking about earlier, black coaches and stuff like that. How about that Nate McMillan doing a hell of a job?
Hell of a coach.
Taking over for Lloyd Pierce and filling in, going 27-11, getting them to the postseason as a top 5 seed, winning the first round, and it was a gentleman's sweep. I can't front. As far as I'm concerned, the New York Knicks only won a quarter and a half the entire series. Everything else belonged to the Atlanta Hawks, and that's in large part due to the coaching of Nate McMillan, who already has a contract extension. It just hasn't been announced. It's already done. He will be the coach for the foreseeable future for the Atlanta Hawks, and he damn well deserves it.
To that point, Stephen A., since he took over, they went 31-12. That's the same record as the Sixers. Really, really impressive. Kendrick, anything else you wanted to get in here?
Well, first of all, Max, the word New York should never come out of your mouth. Not how you betrayed the city of New York and turned your back on
Thank you.
Thank you. That's the first. Second of all, hey, Pacers, Indiana. I wonder how y'all feeling today watching Nate McMillan do his thing with this Atlanta Hawks team after y'all fired them reason. Carry on.
I never wanted him in Indy anyway. I like him better in Atlanta. It's more fitting for him.
All right, we'll leave it there. This was probably my favorite carry-on thus far, Perk, I have to say.
The playoffs are all about.
Straightaway free, good! He is a machine. Doncic with 40.
Big games. You gotta play hard. You gotta play with heart.
For the tie, no good! This baby is over.
Every year presents a different challenge. This is what's in front of us.
We're gonna have to win on the road if we want to become champions.
So what is the message going back down to Dallas for Game 6?
You gotta win in 7 now.
Kawhi Leonard versus Luka Doncic, Game 5, advantage Luka, putting on a show at Staples, 42-8-14. Tim Hardaway Jr. doing his thing, too. The Mavs take the 3-2 series lead. As for Kawhi, 25-5, not his best playoff performance, and now he faces elimination in Game 6. Let's check in and see where everyone's mindset is right now.
Just from my own feelings, we're definitely disappointed in the loss, but we have confidence in ourselves. And, to go out and get another win. So, like I said, we're just focused on the next one, and we're going to see what we could do better.
We're confident. We're confident we can extend the series and bring this back home. We got to go to Dallas, and it's going to be another hard environment, another tough environment for us to go into. But it's what we got to do. It's the job that we got in front of us, and we got to tackle it.
And I could have played way better, I missed a lot of shots, some layups that I shouldn't make. But it wasn't just me, man. It was the whole team, the energy.
Luka single-handedly outperformed the Clippers duo of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George last night. He scored almost the same amount of points as them, but shot better from the field, including better from deep. He was also creating more for his team, having more assists than Kawhi and PG combined. Max.
Yeah.
Is this series more about Luka or Kawhi?
You know what? I'd like Stephen A. to start because I want to focus on Luka, Stephen A., and I know you have things to say about Kawhi.
Oh, absolutely. This is all about Kawhi Leonard. I don't want to hear anything about Luka. Now, don't get me wrong. I must bring up Luka when I'm talking about Kawhi because I was told, and I think I was told by Max Kellerman and various others about the superstar that Kawhi Leonard was, okay? And we understand that in this series, he's averaging 30, okay? Kawhi Leonard is averaging 30 on 57% shooting. So it's not like he's some scrub or something like that. This brother's a star. But I think I was told he actually could play defense. Well, why is it then that when we talked about him and Paul George, two-way players, and I'm focusing more on Kawhi than Paul George, because my problem with Paul George is that I just think he needs to be more assertive and aggressive and play like the star that he is. But he ain't the number one dude. That's supposed to be Kawhi Leonard. And I'm watching Luka Doncic average 35, 9, and 8. I'm going to say that again. 35, 9, and 8 on 47% shooting and 43% shooting from three-point range. Last night in 3 quarters, he had 40 in 3 quarters. Shot 1 of 8 in the fourth quarter, 0 for 3 from three-point range, scored just 2 points in the fourth quarter, but he had 40 in 3 quarters. Only 2 members of the Dallas Mavericks scored in double digits. Luka and Tim Hardaway's 20. Porzingis didn't even have nothing but 8 points. And you still lose on your home court? Wasn't the crown dangling from the convertible, Kawhi Leonard? Wasn't you that dude that was coming to claim L.A.? Better question. What would we be saying if this were LeBron James? You'd face the franchise. You're supposed to be the leader. You're supposed to be that dude that everything evolves around. If this were LeBron James, we would be killing him. See, this is moments like this is what LeBron James should use to crystallize as to why he can't stand the media or critics or pundits or whatever. Because this is where we are grotesquely unfair to him. If this were LeBron James, we'd be all over him. 20 points, 7 of 9 shooting, Game 5 at the time of the series, 2-2. Going back to Dallas with a Game 6 on your home court, you can't win. 3 home games, 3 losses. Let me tell you something, Max Kellerman. I think Steve Ballmer got to get the hell out of the Staples Center as quick as he possibly can.
No doubt.
Get another arena. Get another arena. Move to another city if you have to. Let me tell you something. They lose this, man. They lose this series, and I give props to Dallas because, I didn't pick Dallas to win another game because of that nerve damage in Luka Doncic. I don't know how he did. I'm like, it's nerve damage in the neck. How the hell can you overcome that in 2 days? But he did. He did. And I'm looking at Steve Ballmer, and I'm like, you just keep losing at the Staples Center.
Yeah, this is the point, Stephen A. I agree with the Staples Center point. I agree with it. First of all, when you get the Wednesday games and the Lakers get all the good dates, you should get out of there anyway. But
why?
I agree with you.
What's wrong with the Wednesday game?
No, I'm saying like the Clippers, the dates of Clippers games, at least when I was in LA, were always like the second-rate games. And the prime
Saturday
time slot.
afternoons.
Yeah,
like
right,
that.
exactly.
But Wednesday night is not a bad night.
Wednesday
That's
night's not
ESPN
bad.
night.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, that's a very good point, Stephen. Yes. I can't debate what you're talking about with Kawhi because Clippers will never flip LA, but Kawhi had a chance here. Kawhi had a chance here to come at the throne for LeBron in LA. Kawhi's from LA, right? You get LA behind him, if not the Clippers. If the Lakers get bounced, there's a little crack, there's a little opening, right? He didn't do it. You're right. By the airball, the last shot, I was shocked. But this was not about Kawhi, in fact. What this was about was Luka Doncic. Luka, who dropped 42, 14, and 8 for his third playoff victory on the road in this series against supposedly a great defensive team. Luka Doncic said after the game, I could have been much better late. I made a lot of mistakes, and gave the credit to Dorian Finney-Smith, who wound up on 6 or 8 points, whatever it was, but his overall game. Luka, and this is something people have to understand. Right now, Stephen A., put all the NBA players on a scale. What's their value? Which means not just who would you build a franchise around, because maybe it's Zion, that's years away still, or some young player. It's not just who's the very best player in the world right now. Do we know that Luka is better than, say, James Harden right now? But he's 10 years younger also. I'm saying add everything up and say if you had to put everyone in a trip, who would get the most in a trade? Who's the most valuable commodity in the NBA? The answer is Luka Doncic, and it's not close. He is 22 years old and can walk into playoff series against defenders like Kawhi and Paul George, and they don't seem to want it with him. As you said, Porzingis, supposed to be his second banana, he don't have it. Every year he's hurt, and he has to get back to where he is, and when he's at his best, he's very good. That's not right now. Tim Hardaway Jr. has been excellent. They have guys like Kleba and Finney-Smith who can play, but this is Luka Doncic completely controlling the game and being the best player on the floor. This is about Luka.
Nope. Because Luka takes Kawhi off the hook, and I'm not going to let that happen. Here's the deal. Luka's big boying dudes. Luka, Patrick Beverly. You ain't even you're not even in the rotation anymore because Luka's out there and he big boys you. You just too small for him. Rondo, same thing. Width-wise, in terms of Paul George, maybe a little bit too small.
Rondo wasn't good last night. I was surprised.
That's not Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard, you see those muscles that he's got? You know he's a legit 6'7", right? Just like Luka, right? And last time I checked, Kawhi ain't supposed to be. This is the dude that got MVP because he was guarding LeBron James. Now, LeBron James averaged 28 points in that finals in 2014, but was held to 37% shooting by Kawhi Leonard. And Kawhi Leonard got MVP because of that. Well, now here we are, Luka. And what does Ty Lue say in the post-game conference? We asked Kawhi to do a lot, and he was tired. What? Didn't y'all rest coming into the postseason? Didn't you lose on purpose so you could avoid the Lakers and get the Dallas Mavericks? Wasn't that you? That was the Lakers. That was the Clippers.
Who is going to stop Luka in the NBA, Stephen A?
Kawhi. He's
going to stop him? No. Forget Kawhi for a second. Who?
No. No, Max. You don't get to say that.
Stop Luka.
No. You don't get to say that. Kawhi is supposed to figure. I'm not saying to completely stop him. 40 3/4. 40.
He wasn't playing. He wasn't defending him most possessions.
Max, stop. Game 7 last year, Max. What did Jamal Murray do?
You're right.
40. That's on the Kawhi team. What's up? What's up?
But part of that is the defensive scheme.
Ain't that what he's supposed to be doing?
Stephen A. Part of that is the defensive scheme and the coach. Like that's not just
oh my
Kawhi.
God.
All right.
Oh my God.
Gentlemen,
Matt,
we gotta
I know
leave it
that
there.
literally, but theoretically, come on, Max. You gotta find you the star. You Kawhi.
right.
Well, look,
We're
I
out of
don't
time,
disagree
guys.
with that. The offensive player always has the advantage. I'm telling you right now, there's no one in the
Really? That's
NBA
what
going to
we're doing.
stop Luka. No one's stopping Luka.
Okay, I got it. Molly, by the way, no more debates. I apologize about Molly. No more debates. Because according to Max, the offensive player already. So we don't even have to. There's no reason to debate no more. We don't need to even talk basketball anymore. Because according to Max,
You're
if you're an offensive juggernaut,
equal footing
no
with the
one can
offensive
stop you. So far be it for us to hold Kawhi accountable. You letting them off the hook.
You can hold
You're letting them
Kawhi
off the hook.
accountable
Who's
all
the
you want.
juggernaut of
That's
all
right, Luka.
juggernauts in college basketball? And I want to hear is on the brink of elimination. But keep in mind, LeBron has the most points per game when facing elimination, even more than MJ and Wilt. Game 6 in Staples. So Laker faithful will be in full effect. As for Anthony Davis, he's a question mark with the groin, and of course CP3 battling that shoulder. Stephen A., what version of LeBron do you need to see?
Oh, is this for me or Max, Molly? I'm sorry.
For
I didn't hear
you. It's for you.
I don't want to hear anything from LeBron James tonight in terms of being passive. I don't give a damn if he shoots 0 for 40. You got to go down swinging because it's very possible that they may go down tonight. Phoenix is no joke, y'all. They ain't playing. And I knew that the Lakers were gonna get beat the other night. I didn't think they were gonna get annihilated by 30 in the first half, but I definitely knew they were gonna lose Game 5 because how that team feeds off of that crowd is something special. And then when you take into account how we saw them perform on the road, I got to give credit where credit is due. They got some young thoroughbreds that go after it, and they firmly believe they can beat these Lakers. Listen, they respect LeBron. They respect Anthony Davis. They understand how elite those dudes are when healthy. They ain't worried about nobody else on the Lakers. They don't feel anybody else on the Lakers can mess with them. And their whole thing is Anthony Davis is hobbled. Let's try and neutralize LeBron. LeBron got to go out there and be like a man possessed. Why is 40% of your shots from three-point range? Why? Why is that? Go in the paint. Go in the hole. You 6'9". You healthy. You 6'9". Not healthy completely, but healthy enough. You 6'9", 260. You're bigger and stronger than most. Obviously faster than most as well. You're the modern-day version of Superman. Go up in there. Take Jay Crowder or whomever else in the post, get to the free throw line, do what you got to do to be that man amongst boys, and handle your business. That's what LeBron should be doing because let me tell you something. That's their only hope. KCP, he ain't 100%. In 15 minutes, he didn't give you anything. Dennis Schroeder should be ashamed of himself. Ashamed of himself. A donut, 0 points, and you play over 26 minutes? What the hell is wrong with you? Kyle Kuzma was the only dude that came off the bench. And by the way, Anthony Davis, this is a delicate situation, Max and Molly. And Max, you know me when I tell you what I'm hearing. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, everyone read between the lines.
This is one of those moments, okay? Anthony Davis, no one. We all love Anthony Davis, respect the unibrow, the hell he's when healthy, one of the greatest players in the world. Here's the deal. No one is questioning the legitimacy of Anthony Davis's injury. We all know he's hurt. We know that if he could play, he'll play. But tonight, with the season on the line, people are looking at him with a raised eyebrow. And here's why. No pun intended. Here's why. Because what are you doing with your body in the off season? What are you doing during the season to take care of yourself so you don't find yourself in these kind of situations? Because he's perpetually injured all the time. That's how people are looking at him. So tonight, everybody knows he's not going to be 100%. The question is, can you go? LeBron James is out there by himself. You going to go out there and help your brother? Because I'm telling you right now, nobody wants to hear, well, I need to be cleared by team doctors. Ain't nobody trying to hear that. I can tell you that. They ain't trying to hear it. They're looking at him like, you make that damn call. Caesar's on the line. But you going to go. And we ain't questioning his injury. We question whether or not you can play through it to help your brother because LeBron James got a battle of his life right here waiting for him tonight in Phoenix. They coming.
First of all, the reason LeBron's taking so many outside shots, Stephen A., as you know, is too much traffic in the paint. And that's because they have no respect for the Lakers shooters. And why should they? Lakers shooters have not been hitting shots. Dennis Schroeder, it was a no-show. First, Stephen A., as I talked about it yesterday, first Laker in history, first L.A. Laker since they moved to L.A., first Los Angeles Laker in history in the playoffs to attempt at least 9 shots, have 0 points. So why would the Suns respect the Lakers shooters? But here's the thing. LeBron's got to be great, obviously. If LeBron's not great, they can't win. I'm with you on AD. If AD can go at all, he's got to try. But here's the thing. Chris Paul is not Chris Paul right now. Now, the end of that game, his shoulder looked like it was hanging on by a thread. It looked like he was in excruciating pain, like he was not the same guy. And while it's not a lower extremity, so he can actually walk out onto the court, he can run around, I don't think we can expect him to be the Chris Paul who can help carry a team. So what does that mean? That means I'm looking at Devin Booker. And I said this going into the series. I thought there may come a time where LeBron, on a bad ankle and all, has to do something about Devin Booker defensively. And I think the time may have come. One thing I know for sure is obviously LeBron must be the best player on the floor. You can say, well, yeah, of course. That wasn't the case in game 1. Booker came out, saw LeBron, AD, and Chris Paul. He was the best player on the floor. LeBron must be the best player in the game. And if he can be, Stephen A., once you start thinking, well, take the real AD off the Lakers. Okay, take the real Chris Paul off the Suns. Lakers can win this game.
Lakers can win this game. They better win this game. I assume there will be a game 7, and I'm not running from that because I think LeBron on his home court tonight is going to be a monster. He has to be. He has to show up. But I emphasize the fact that, again, while others got to show up, all eyes are on Anthony Davis right now. Listen, again, nobody's questioning that he's injured. We wouldn't do that to that brother. He's not that kind of man. If he can play, he wants to be out there. He wants to play. But I'm just telling you, people are looking at him like, okay, what do you do to take care of yourself during the season? Do you stretch enough? What are you doing to take care of yourself during the offseason? Remember, he came on first take about a year ago. And what did he say? He said, listen, there were people that were questioning me, and talking about I was a bit frail and what have you. So I was in that gym, got bigger, got stronger. I'm ready for the run. And then he backed it up and went in the NBA Finals and could have easily been the NBA Finals MVP with his numbers averaging 30 and doing what he did. But the flip side is now it's reverted back to form. And all year long, people haven't liked the body language of the Lakers. They felt that the Lakers were a bit too comfortable feeling themselves, rightfully so. They're the reigning defending champions. So the mentality was, we did it. We already accomplished that goal. We got the Lakers back to relevancy, blah, blah, blah. We ain't got nothing to worry about. We'll see y'all come playoff time. And all year long, people were lamenting the kind of attitude that they were walking around with. And so now that you see guys hurt, what's bringing in the question is, well, how are you living? You in La La. You in Southern California, chilling as the reigning defending NBA champions. You know what? Were you putting in that work to make sure you were ready to defend your crown? Or did you just take it for granted? Because that's what you're seeing when you see all of these health issues prop up with dudes. And that's what people are talking about. LeBron James, true to form, somehow, some way, no matter what, physically, always ready. Always ready. Because he in that gym, he putting in that work. Nobody's questioning that about him. They starting to question it about other people. And they looking at the Los Angeles Lakers with a raised eyebrow, no pun intended. And Cat's going to have to answer the call. I'm just telling you.
All right. To your point, AD has had 8 different injuries this season. But LeBron, everyone's saying he needs to have at least 30 points. He hasn't had a 30-point game since March 18th. We'll see if he gets the JOB done. Tonight, fellas.
He will tonight.
We'll keep it rolling.